guys, I'm Arielle Schmidt, owner of Tranquility Rising here in Blue Ash, Ohio, and I'm here with
Sara Pagel, owner of Thin Line Consulting, virtual most of the time.
So today we're gonna go through a little bit about what it looks like to get a digestive massage when you have an active parasite infection. Is that what you wanna call it?
Yep.
So what it's going to look like, you'll see me doing the technique, but then Sarah's going to talk a little bit about what type of parasite infections you might be dealing with, how the technique feels on her, and whether or not it's feeling great or painful or what that might look like, because this type of work is something that if you join us for our full moon parasite cleanse, is something that we're going to deep dive a little bit more into, and where you'll learn the technique as well. So it's a lot of fun. So we're going to have Sara lie down on the table, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about everything.
Yeah. So it's kind of good timing for doing this because I just got back from Mexico. And one of the things that is very predominant in Mexico, especially, is parasites. So we get parasites from all sorts of different places, including our food, our water, the ground that we're walking on. So we're exposed to them all the time. And so I actually did, of course, because my body is very inviting for parasites. I picked up parasites last week when I was in Mexico. So I actually have an active parasitic infection, which I don't always have. But parasites definitely have been a huge part of my story, which is part of the reason why Arielle and I are collaborating to bring you this full moon cleanse. So Arielle has actually done this work on my body quite a bit over the years because she is my Thai yoga massage practitioner and is awesome. You totally have to come see her. And so, yeah, so I have an active parasitic infection. So what does it feel like to you?
So as I'm working, and even if you don't have a parasite infection, if you have like constipation or something, you might have similar sensations. But just talking about the parasites, I'm moving around the entire large intestine digestive tract. So the ascending, the transverse, and the descending that goes down into the colon, where we actually expel all of our junk. So I'm noticing a lot of inflammation down in this lower quadrant, which is part of that colon, last part of the large intestine. And then going through the ascending large intestine, it feels decent. And then when I hit the transverse top quadrant, top upper right quadrant, that's where it starts to get pretty stagnant. And so if you know anything about digestion, the large intestine is meant to extract and dry out and like get those final pieces of nutrition that maybe the small intestine missed. But the whole goal of large intestine is to extract and get out. So a lot of times what happens when we get into these upper quadrants and the curves, we don't have enough lubrication to get things moving, or in Sarah's cases, parasites can hang out anywhere, and the more curves and kinks, the higher chance that that might be where they're hiding out. So as I'm working, what does the pressure feel like to you in those specific places that I mentioned?
I definitely feel like when you come across, I can feel a little bit more tender, and some like almost like bubbles popping, especially here in this like the curve, like where it's kind of curving down, where the intestines are curving down. So I can feel just it's really tender. I can tell that my body is like angry, like my body is working through something.
Yeah. And you might even notice like symptoms like a bloating or extra sensitivity. I know if I eat the wrong foods, I can be really tender in my lower intestinal tract. So if you're noticing any of that, it might be food sensitivity, or more than likely there's a level of parasite that you're not aware of. Because like Sara said, all of us have parasites all the time.
We are exposed to them, and research shows that 60, and this is probably a very low number, but 60+% of Americans have parasites. So it's very, very, very common to not just be exposed to them, but to actually have infections with them. Now this one definitely feels a little bit not quite as pleasant. Like that first technique that Arielle uses, it's gentle, but this one feels like, oh, okay, we're moving stuff now.
The first one is a warm up, and you could literally just do stomach circles forever and it would flush a little bit, but this is like diving deep and almost like pinching things to try to maneuver them a little bit more. And so when we do these techniques, it's also really important to understand the person's digestive system already, because we can overstimulate things, which for most people isn't an issue because most people don't have an overactive digestive system, meaning they have diarrhea or too many bowel movements. So it takes a lot of work to do that. But for someone who is really sensitive to digestive work, we can send their system into shock. And so we just want to make sure that we are acknowledging where they're at on their digestive, and we're making sure that we're not doing too much in one section.
And that aligns too, because when you're pushing toxins through, you can go into what's called a Herxheimer reaction. And that's where your body can't keep up with the amount of toxins that are being flushed out of your system. Those toxins then get recirculated in your body and can cross your blood-brain barrier, and you can have a whole variety of different symptoms, which we definitely go through in more depth during in the full moon parasite cleanse. So I'm glad that she's actually moved off of that technique, because up here in this upper quadrant was starting to feel really sore, almost like it was like my body was starting to be like, can we be done with this now? And one of the things I'm really thankful with Arielle is she's very, very intuitive when it comes to this kind of body work. She's really good at listening to the body and knowing when the body has reached the point where it's like, okay, I'm done. Like, can we be done now? And she's very good at moving through to the next step.
Yeah, and I always say that the reason that I'm able to detect so much in the body is because I do a lot of my own body work on myself. Mm-hmm. So when we do our own work, regardless of it's emotional or physical, we know the limitations of someone else then, for the most part.
So true.
So this technique that I'm doing will actually be taught to you during a full moon parasite cleanse with me and Sara. Because if you're flushing anything, emotional, physical, parasites, whatever it is, we want to make sure that it's not getting stuck in the digestive tract. Because on an elemental coaching level, any stored emotions that we don't know how to process will also hang out in the gut space. Mm-hmm. So that's why maybe if you've been through therapy or you've had a really emotional day, our digestive tract will get a little wonky, whether it speeds up or slows down. It's going straight into the gut. For us women, it can also go into the womb space. But today we're just going to talk digestion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the other thing too is when you start addressing parasites, they're really, really sneaky, and they want very much to live and survive. And so they can create havoc in your body, and you can not even realize that. Like we were just talking about this earlier today, you can have like a random symptom here and a random symptom here and an emotional thing here and a mental health thing over here, and bloating here or constipation here or whatever. And it's like there's no clear-cut path that connects them all. But then when you start to learn more and understand more about what parasites are and what they do to your body, the connections become actually really clear. And when you start to cleanse those things out, you start to have like, oh, that doesn't feel good. But when you start to clear that stuff out, you definitely you have these roadblocks that you didn't even know you had, and they start to like, you have these aha moments that are really powerful and move you forward in your healing journey. So starting with a good parasite cleanse and walking with practitioners through that so you can talk through when things happen, is a great way to take a next action step in your healing journey.
Yeah. So like, for example, like I just started a parasite cleanse a few weeks ago. And one of the like emotional components that came out of it was like poor boundaries or impulse control. And I just thought like, man, because I've been doing a lot of inner work, I was like, man, what is going on? And then talked to Sara today and she's like, when did you start your parasite cleanse? And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. I am just going through a detox. And so, yes, it hits the physical body, makes us tired and moody and just but it can really affect the mental health space too. And it's really important to make sure that you're supported in that space. Like, you should never feel like you're spiraling out of control when you're doing a detox, because that's what the body is trying to get you to do, like make you spiral so that you will stop. So if we can get through that downward spiral, we can get out on the other end.
It's kind of like the old adage, it gets worse before it gets better. And that is, there seems to be a lot of truth with that when you're doing any kind of cleansing or detoxing.
Okay, take a deep breath. And out. And then breathe normal for 10. So I'm doing a cupping technique, and I could actually put physical cups on the body's digestive tract as well, which I have done if someone has a really stubborn blockage, because it'll bring blood flow, which will push stuff out. But right now I'm just doing one main cupping point over the belly button, and Sara's just breathing as well as she can as I'm putting a lot of pressure on this space. And depending on the blockages, this is usually a really big release. And you'll even feel or hear gurgling as we do this movement. It's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine to be able to hear people's like gurgles, because I know it's working and I know the relief that comes after we get done with the digestive system.
And I can attest. When she has done digestive work on me in the past, because I have, I've been fighting with parasites since 2018. So this is a very, like, I know exactly what's happening in my body right now. And so I can attest that when you do this digestive massage work in combination with the right supplements, with a good support system, you really like, things move and things happen, and you do get to move forward in your healing journey, and you don't have to feel so stuck. I have a lot of conversations with clients and potential clients and people who are just seeking knowledge in their healing journey, that just feel stuck and they don't know where to go or what to do next. And there's no better time than the present to to move forward and just do the next right thing. And so yeah, but I can absolutely attest to having better bowel movements, and actually even having some herxing after a detox massage like this. But I have the tools and I have the knowledge to support my body in that process, so I can actually flush out that stored, not just the stored trauma and the stored emotions, but the parasites, the actual critters that don't want to get evicted.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they fight.
So I'm just finishing up our demonstration today, and Sarah's going to just kind of say how she feels, like if it feels lighter or less restrictive or anything that might have shifted during that session.
I definitely feel like things are like more tingly and more flowy. Actually, I have a little bit of pulsing in my upper shoulder on my left side. So definitely feel like things are like a little bit more movement. And I feel like this isn't necessarily related to the physical work, but I feel grateful for Arielle, because I do have an active parasitic infection right now. And so I feel grateful and thankful that I have resources and support and community and like the tools in my tool belt to support my body as it like actively fights off and evicts these jerks. So but yeah, I feel my tummy is very warm too, so that to me speaks volumes that like the blood is flowing again and just really supported.
And anytime
in the
we have like a
process.
heat induction, like obviously I was massaging pretty aggressively, so it's going to bring heat. But usually if heat is coming from inside out, it's a way to reduce inflammation without taking any supplement to it. Chinese medicine, if we do gua sha work or cupping, that's the whole point. It's to draw out that excess inflammation so it's not hiding in the body anymore. So we're doing something very similar by just warming up the system and getting things to flow more frequently. And then like Sara mentioned, having like sensation in her shoulder. It's because the meridian lines that you'll learn more about if you work with me or if you're in this cleanse, they go all throughout the body from head to toe out to the arms, like they're all interconnected. And so when we work on one section of the body, it's going to have a different effect on a different section of the body. And then we'll go into different emotional components. So specifically stomach work is going to work with like the root chakra, safety and security, anxiety, depression, those things that are like our core needs space. So whenever we do digestive work, those things can also get pulled into it. And since the stomach meridian is top of the thighs, belly, chest, underneath the sinuses, like it can affect a large portion of the body that we don't even know about. So if you guys are interested in joining us for our full moon cleanse, you can head to either one of our websites, which will be at the end of this video. And the full moon cleanse is every single month. So you can jump in whenever you're ready and get these things going.
All right. Well, thanks guys. We're super excited to share with you our full moon cleanse and our knowledge and experience, and really looking forward to working with you guys.
Perfect. I think that was our intro video.
That was a good intro video.
Stop.